Alright, hey, this is Combo Envoy again. Now we're looking at the key cards of my third best deck, which is the Spellcaster deck. So let's be consistent and start with monsters. First off, Sorcerer of Dark Magic. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Can only be special summoned by attributing to level 6 or higher Spellcaster type monsters, and it can negate the activation of any trap and destroy them. Second is Chaos Sorcerer. This card can only be special summoned by removing one light and one dark monster in your graveyard from play. Once during each of your turns, you can remove one face-up monster on the field from play. If you activate this effect, this card cannot attack during the turn. And one thing people are confused about is its effect. The first sentence say that's the only way you can special summon it, but it doesn't say this card cannot be tribute summoned. Gravekeeper's Chief, the reason it's in here is so its effect, since I have Necro Valley in here, its effect is Necro Valley only affects my opponent's graveyard and I can only have one Gravekeeper's Chief on the field. Next is Magician's Valkyria, which basically this is the only spellcaster my opponent can attack as long as it's on the field. Then there's Sage of Stillness, which is if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, your opponent cannot activate traps during the next turn, which is really good if you can't get it to destroy a monster. And last but definitely not least is Jester Confit, which is you can special summon this card from your hand in face-up attack position. If you do, return this card and one face-up monster your opponent controls to the hand during the end phase of your opponent's next turn. And I can only have one face-up Jester Confit. So there. Now onto the spells, which is Allure of Darkness. I can draw 2 cards and remove from play 1 dark monster from my hand. If I do not have any dark monsters in my hand to remove, send all the cards in my hand to the graveyard. And that's not a big problem here, since pretty much all monsters in this deck are dark monsters except for a few. And Necro Valley, which I'm not going to go to the effect because I think everybody knows this card. Nightmare Steel Cage, it stays on the field for 2 of your opponent's turns and no monster can attack. Destroy this during your opponent's second end phase after this card was activated. Then there is Magical Stone Excavation, which discard 2 cards, select 1 spell from your graveyard and add it to your hand. Now onto the traps. First off, Xing Zhang Hu, which select 2 set spell or trap cards on the field, and as long as this card is face up on the field, the selected spells and traps cannot be activated, which is really good if you know what your opponent's face downs are. It's really easy to use this card, and plus it makes people really mad. Death Amulet, discard a card from your hand, negate the attack, destroy this card during your third end phase. Kind of good for protection. Nightmare Reel, select one of your opponent's monsters. It cannot attack or change its battle position when it's removed from the field. Destroy this card. During each of your standby phases, your opponent takes 500 points of damage. Metal Reflect Slime, which even though it doesn't summon a spellcaster, it's just good for defense. After this card is activated, special summon this card in defense position is treated as an effect monster card. So basically it has these stats. It's an Aqua type, Water attribute, level 10, 0 attack, 3000 defense, and it cannot attack, which you really don't want it to. And it's still treated as a trap, so Mystical Space Typhoon works against this. Basically, yeah, Mirror Force. I believe everyone knows this card. I'm not going into the effect. Then Dark Illusion, negate the activation of a spell, trap, or affect monster's effect that targets a face-up dark monster and destroy that card. Which there's 2 ways to use this card if your opponent's if your opponent is going to power up one of their dark monsters so they can destroy one of your monsters, you can use this. Or if your opponent is using a card to destroy one of your dark monsters, you can also use this. So, yep, that was the key cards of my Spellcaster deck.